The rain hammered the windows of the Harvard admissions office like fists demanding justice. But inside, Jonathan Hale's world shattered with a single email notification. At 24, he had clawed his way from a rusty trailer in rural Ohio to this Ivy League dream, only to watch it dissolve because his heart refused to play by the rules. "I can't do this anymore," he whispered to the empty room, his voice cracking like thunder. As the cursor hovered over decline, a choice that would rewrite his life in ways he could never imagine. Jonathan's fingers trembled on the trackpad, the glow of the screen casting shadows across his face, etching lines of doubt where youthful certainty once thrived. He thought of Elias, the architect whose sketches of soaring bridges and hidden gardens had pulled him from the suffocating grip of expectations from a family that still whispered prayers for his lost soul over Sunday pot roasts. One click, and the scholarship vanished, a digital ghost evaporating into the ether. But freedom, he told himself, tasted like the salt of Elias's skin after a late-night walk along the Charles River, not the sterile ink of law degrees. As the confirmation popped up, offer declined, Jonathan's chest tightened, a mix of terror and exhilaration flooding his veins. He grabbed his coat, the wool still damp from the storm, and bolted into the downpour, his sneakers splashing through puddles that mirrored the chaos in his soul. Boston's streets blurred into a watercolor of neon and regret. But beneath it all burned a fierce resolve for Elias, for the man who saw not the prodigal son but the builder of futures. Jonathan would trade certainty for the unknown. Little did he know, that same vulnerability would one day summon shadows he couldn't outrun. Back in their cramped Cambridge apartment, Elias looked up from his drafting table, his blue eyes widening at the sight of Jonathan, drenched and defiant. "You did it," Elias said, not as a question but a revelation, pulling him into an embrace that smelled of graphite and fresh coffee. Jonathan nodded, burying his face in Elias's shoulder, the weight of his decision settling like a foundation stone. They were both American dreamers in a city of old money and older prejudices. Elias, 26, from a lineage of Brooklyn Masons who built the subways that pulsed beneath their feet. Jonathan, the scholarship kid whose Ohio roots clung like clay to his boots. That night, they toasted with cheap Merlot, blueprints spread across the floor like maps to a shared horizon, oblivious to the fault lines cracking beneath. But love, Jonathan learned in those early months, was no straight-edged blueprint. It curved and cantilevered, defying gravity yet threatening collapse. Elias's passion for architecture mirrored his fervor for Jonathan, intense, unyielding, sketching futures in the margins of takeout menus. "We'll design something real," Elias would murmur during their walks through the public garden, his hand brushing Jonathan's in fleeting defiance of prying eyes. Jonathan, ever the analyzer, dissected every glance, every whisper, weighing the cost of visibility against the ache of hiding. His family back home sent care packages of flannel shirts and Bible verses, subtle reminders that his phase was a detour, not a destination. Yet here, in Elias's arms, Jonathan felt anchored, his internal compass recalibrating toward a life unscripted. As autumn leaves turned the esplanade into a fiery tapestry, their bond deepened through shared silences and stolen sunrises. Jonathan enrolled in night classes at a community college, trading torts for technical drawing, his hands callousing from pencils instead of casebooks. Elias landed a junior role at a firm specializing in sustainable builds, his sketches evolving from dreams to contracts. Evenings blurred into rhythms of laughter and longing. Elias's stories of his immigrant grandparents, who fled Poland with nothing but blueprints in their pockets, weaving tales of resilience that made Jonathan's own struggles feel surmountable. "We're building more than walls," Elias said one crisp October night, tracing Jonathan's jawline with a fingertip smudged in ink. We're building us. Yet doubt lingered like fog over the harbor. Jonathan's mother called weakly. Her voice a gentle siege. Law school's your ticket out. Johnny, don't throw it away for distractions. Each word chipped at his resolve. But Elias's presence mended the fractures nights spent poring over city plans, dreaming of a loft in Soho where they could love openly, without the shadow of Ohio's judgmental gaze. Jonathan's sketches improved, lines gaining confidence. Much like his heart, he began to envision a career not in courtrooms, but in community centers, spaces that healed rather than divided. It was a quiet revolution, one line at a time. Winter descended with a vengeance, blanketing Boston in snow that muffled the world's judgments. Jonathan and Elias holed up in their apartment, the radiator clanging like a heartbeat, fortifying their world against the cold. Elias's firm tasked him with a pro bono project a shelter for LGBTQ youth in Dorchester, a nod to his own coming-out scars from high school hallways lined with lockers and leers. Jonathan volunteered, his legal mind repurposed to navigate grants and zoning laws, feeling for the first time like his past wasn't a betrayal but a bridge. This is why, he told Elias one blizzardy afternoon, snowflakes melting on their eyelashes as they shoveled the shelter's walk. Why I chose you over everything. Their love story etched itself into the city's pulse, coffee runs to Tap Bakery, where baristas winked knowingly. Midnight drives to the Cape, windows down, wind whipping confessions into the Atlantic. Jonathan's family grew distant, Christmas cards unsigned. But Elias's boisterous clan in Brooklyn enveloped him Thanksgiving feasts where uncles ribbed about that fancy Harvard boy without a hint of malice. For the first time, Jonathan tasted belonging, unseasoned by shame. His drawings matured, capturing not just structures but stories the curve of a handrail like an embrace. Windows framing views of possibility. Spring thawed the ice, and with it came Elias's first major commission, a community center in Cambridge, a beacon for immigrant families. Jonathan's involvement deepened. He liaised with nonprofits, his voice steady in boardrooms where once he'd stammered. Their partnership extended beyond the bedroom, Elias designing with flair, Jonathan grounding it in equity. You're my North Star, Elias confessed during a cherry blossom picnic, petals drifting like confetti on their blanket. Jonathan's heart swelled, the scar of his forfeited scholarship fading to a faint line, proof of courage rather than loss. Yet beneath the bloom, tension simmered. Jonathan's old advisor emailed sporadically, veiled offers to reconsider the scholarship, each one a siren call to his abandoned path. Elias, sensing the pull, doubled down on their shared vision, dragging Jonathan to architecture expos where models of utopian cities sparked fire in his eyes. They attended pride events incognito at first, then boldly arms linked under rainbows that arched like Elias's bridges. Jonathan's internal monologue shifted from apology to affirmation, his journals filling with affirmations. I am enough. We are enough. Summer heat waves turned their apartment into a greenhouse of sweat and secrets. Elias's project hit milestones, groundbreaking ceremonies where Jonathan stood proud in the crowd, his chest tight with unspoken vows. They road tripped to Ohio unannounced, a test of roots Jonathan's parents' farm stiff with awkward silences. But Elias's warmth cracked the facade. A shared meal where his father clapped Jonathan's back and said, "Build something lasting, son." It was a fragile truce, but progress. Back in Boston, their love peaked in lazy afternoons sketching on the fire escape, the city sprawling below like a canvas awaiting their mark. As leaves hinted at fall again, Jonathan's confidence crested. He landed an internship at a nonprofit focused on affordable housing, his legal acumen fueling advocacy. Elias proposed they move to New York, bigger firm, bolder dreams. Together, he said, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of forever. Jonathan hesitated only a heartbeat. The echo of his old life, a distant thunder. They packed boxes amid laughter. Each item a relic of their becoming. Dog-eared law texts repurposed as coasters. Elias's first blueprint framed above the bed. The move to Brooklyn felt like ascension. Elias's family welcomed them with a block party. Fireworks bursting like affirmations over the East River. Jonathan dove into freelance consulting, his portfolio swelling with proposals that blended law and design spaces for the marginalized. Echoes of his own journey. Evenings found them on stoops, debating urban sprawl over gelato, their hands intertwined without fear. Pride in Manhattan was electric. A sea of flags where Jonathan shouted his truth. Elias's arm his anchor, but cracks spiderwebbed unnoticed. Jonathan's Ohio ties frayed further, a sister's wedding invitation laced with "pray for us" undertones. Elias's workload ballooned, late nights blurring into exhaustion. Yet their core held, quiet mornings where Jonathan traced the veins on Elias's drafting hand, marveling at the man who'd redrawn his world. Autumn in New York painted the skyline in golds and crimsons, mirroring the warmth blooming in Jonathan's chest as he and Elias settled into their Soho loft. Exposed brick walls cradled Elias's drafting table, now cluttered with models of eco-friendly towers that whispered promises of sustainability. Jonathan, at 25 now, felt the city's rhythm sync with his pulse, hustle, and heart. Ambition laced with empathy. His days blurred between virtual meetings for housing initiatives and evening runs along the Hudson, where the water's gleam reminded him of Elias's eyes at dawn. Their routine solidified into something sacred, Elias sketching by the bay window. Jonathan curled nearby with a tablet, annotating policies that could turn blueprints into homes for the displaced. "You're the soul in my structures," Elias would say, pulling him close, their foreheads touching in a ritual of recharge. Jonathan's growth unfurled like the high lines wildflowers once rigid in his pursuit of prestige. Now flexible, advocating for queer youth centers with a fervor born of personal fire. Friends gathered for game nights, a chosen family of artists and activists, toasting to resilience over craft IPAs. Yet the past lingered, a low hum beneath the jazz club's saxophones. Jonathan's mother sent a letter, words trembling on lined paper. "We've lost you to that city, that life. Come home, Johnny, before it's too late." He read it aloud to Elias one rainy evening, voice steady but eyes wet. Elias folded him into his lap, murmuring, "Home is here, in the lines we draw together." That night, they volunteered at a Brooklyn shelter. Jonathan's stories of small-town closets empowering teens who mirrored his younger self wide-eyed. Wrestling whispers. Winter's chill crept in with Elias's rising star. His firm tapped him for a high-profile museum renovation in Chelsea, deadlines stacking like snowdrifts. Jonathan adapted, his freelance work expanding to include grant writing for LGBTQ advocacy groups, his prose weaving legal precision with poetic plea. They navigated the strain with date night strolls through the Whitney, where modern sculptures echoed their evolving forms. "I see us in these curves," Jonathan whispered amid the echoes, Elias's hand warm in his. Challenges mounted subtly. Elias's long hours bred fatigue, conversations fraying at edges. Jonathan, too, faced pushback, a conservative donor pulling funding from a project after glimpsing his pride profile pic online. "It's nothing," he assured Elias. But the sting lingered, a reminder that visibility was a double-edged beam. They leaned in harder, attending therapy sessions tailored for queer couples, unpacking Elias's immigrant-rooted fears of impermanence, Jonathan's scars from familial rejection. Each session stripped layers, revealing vulnerabilities that bound them tighter. Spring erupted in cherry blossoms along Riverside Park. Their anniversary marked by a picnic where Elias unveiled a custom blueprint, a dream home in the Hudson Valley, with a studio for Jonathan's advocacy sketches. Tears pricked Jonathan's eyes, not from loss, but from the profound gift of being seen. "You rebuilt me," he said, kissing Elias under a canopy of pink, the city fading to a hum. Their love, once a rebellion, now rooted deep, branches reaching toward mutual dreams. Summer sizzled with opportunity. Elias's museum project earned buzz. Invitations to galas where Jonathan stood as his equal, networking with philanthropists who valued his blend of law and heart. They mentored at a youth design workshop, Jonathan guiding teens on equitable planning, Elias on aesthetic soul. Laughter filled their loft, weekends escaping to Fire Island beaches, where rainbow flags fluttered like heartbeats. Jonathan's journals chronicled the shift from "Am I enough?" to "We are unbreakable." But autumn winds carried whispers of storm. Elias's firm pressured for a promotion that demanded relocation to lgbtq over grit. Jonathan's gut twisted. New York was their foundation. "We'll figure it," Elias promised. But doubt seeded. Meanwhile, Jonathan's Ohio family reached out through his sister, a health scare for his dad. An olive branch laced with conditions. "Bring the boy if you must," she texted, "but promise it's temporary." The pull tore at him, a rift between blood and chosen. As leaves fell, tension crested in quiet arguments, Elias's ambition clashing with Jonathan's need for stability. They sought solace in Central Park runs, breaths sinking to mend the fray. A weekend retreat to the Catskills reset them, hiking trails where Elias confessed his fear of failing the legacy his grandparents built brick by brick. Jonathan shared his own the scholarship's ghost, a what-if that haunted success. "We're not detours," he affirmed, their hands clasped over a campfire's glow. "We're the map." Winter returned with Elias's decision, staying in New York, prioritizing us over ascent. Gratitude flooded Jonathan, deepening their intimacy not in passion's fire, but in the steady burn of partnership. He launched a blog, Blueprints for Belonging, chronicling queer journeys in urban design, his words resonating with readers nationwide. Elias contributed illustrations, their collaboration a public vow. Yet the undercurrent swelled. Jonathan's father's illness worsened, pulling him homeward. A tense Christmas in Ohio, Elias met the family, his charm softening edges. But undercurrents of discomfort rippled prayers before meals that skipped their names. Jonathan mediated, his growth evident in calm advocacy. "Love isn't a phase, Mom. It's our foundation." Partial acceptance bloomed, fragile as first snow. Back in the city, renewal stirred. Spring brought Elias a balanced role, Jonathan a full-time position at a queer-focused urban planning nonprofit. Their loft evolved walls lined with youth art, a testament to impact. Pride parades became annual pilgrimages. Jonathan marching with signs of his own design, build bridges, not barriers. Summer's heat forged deeper bonds. They adopted a rescue dog, Milo, whose wagging tail mirrored their joy. Evenings on the balcony, city lights twinkling. Jonathan reflected, from scholarship sacrifice to this tapestry of purpose. Every choice a deliberate stroke. But as autumn loomed again, a digital shadow gathered. Jonathan, inspired by a workshop, posted a heartfelt thread on social media photos of their journey. Elias's sketches anonymized but unmistakable. "One click to claim our story," he captioned, heart emoji pulsing like a dare. The post went viral overnight, a cascade of likes and shares rippling from Brooklyn lofts to Midwest feeds. Jonathan woke to notifications buzzing like hornets, his phone screen a mosaic of rainbows and rebukes. "Beautiful," gushed allies. "Abomination," spat trolls. "Elias, bleary-eyed over coffee. Squeezed his hand. You did good. Love. This is use out loud. At 26 now, Jonathan felt exposed yet empowered. The architect of his own narrative. Work amplified the echo. His blog exploded. Invitations pouring for panels on queer urbanism. Elias's firm celebrated the exposure. His museum project gaining queer-inclusive tweaks inspired by Jonathan's insights. They navigated the spotlight to gather interviews where Jonathan's voice, once tentative, rang with conviction. Design isn't neutral. It's a statement on who belongs. Evenings. They decompressed with Milo walks in Prospect Park. Leaves crunching underfoot like affirmations. Yet backlash brewed. Ohio relatives unfriended him en masse. His mother's silence a void louder than screams. A colleague at the nonprofit whispered concerns. Keep it professional. John. Elias. Ever the builder. Fortified their walls date nights at hidden jazz dives, where sax notes drowned doubts. Their love, tested by visibility, emerged resilient. Conversations delving deeper into fears, Elias's dread of professional fallout, Jonathan's echo of familial exile. Winter wrapped them in introspection. Snow blanketed the city, mirroring the hush after the storm. Jonathan's father passed quietly. A funeral in Ohio where Elias stood sentinel. His presence a quiet rebellion. Amid eulogies laced with omission, Jonathan spoke. Dad taught me structure, how to build despite storms. Partial forgiveness flickered in his mother's eyes. A seed planted. Back home. Grief carved space for growth. Therapy sessions unpacked loss. Elias holding space with unwavering grace. Jonathan channeled sorrow into a memorial project, a community garden in Dorchester for grieving families. Blending his worlds. Elias designed it. Arbors arching like embraces. Groundbreaking day dawned crisp. Shovels breaking earth as locals gathered. Stories shared under budding branches. Spring's thaw brought renewal. The garden bloomed. A metaphor for their mending flowers pushing through soil. Resilient. Jonathan's panels drew crowds. His message evolving. Vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the blueprint for connection. Elias surprised him with a trip to Provincetown. Beaches where they walked hand in hand. Waves erasing footprints of doubt. Summer sizzled with momentum. Elias's promotion solidified. His team diverse and dynamic. Jonathan's nonprofit expanded, securing grants for inclusive housing. They hosted barbecues on their fire escape. Laughter mingling with grill smoke. Milo chasing fireflies. Pride was triumphant. Jonathan emceeing a float on their shared love's architecture. But autumn's winds carried a gust of reckoning. An old law school acquaintance. Scrolling idly. Screenshotted Jonathan's post and forwarded it to a conservative alumni group. Harvard's reject leading the charge. The email jeered. It snowballed anonymous tips to Elias's firm. Whispers of distraction in boardrooms. Elias brushed it off. But Jonathan saw the strain in his furrowed brow. Winter deepened the chill. Holiday cards arrived, tainted cousins decrying public scandal. Jonathan's blog comments turned toxic, forcing moderation. Elias's late nights returned. Not from ambition, but evasion. It's noise. He insisted. But his sketches lost their fluidity. Lines jagged. Spring struggled against frost. A firm partner pulled Elias aside. Family values matter to clients. Code for conformity. Jonathan advocated fiercely, drafting inclusivity clauses. But resentment simmered. Why expose when it costs? They argued in whispers. Milo sensing the shift. Whining at doors. Summer's heat amplified fractures. A major donor withdrew from Jonathan's project, citing personal choices. Elias's museum opening loomed. Stress etching his face. They retreated to the Hudson Valley. The dream home site, now a half-built haven. Amid wildflowers. Confession spilled. I fear losing you to this fight. Elias admitted. Jonathan held him. The fight is for us. Autumn crested with crisis. The viral post resurfaced in a tabloid hit piece, Scholarship Center seduces architect, twisting their story into scandal. Clients balked at Elias's firm. Project stalled. Jonathan's nonprofit faced audits. Board members eyeing exits. One night. Rain lashing windows. Elias shattered. One click undid everything. Was it worth it? Jonathan's heart fractured. The man who'd rebuilt him now crumbling. We rebuild again. He pleaded. But Elias pulled away. Eyes hollow. Days blurred into distance, Elias crashing at a colleague's. Jonathan alone with Milo's whines and echoing loft. Winter isolated them further. Courtship texts turned curt. Therapy canceled. Jonathan poured grief into the garden. Pruning with fury. Petals falling like tears. Elias's calls came sporadically. Voice laced with exhaustion. I need space to think. Spring's promise mocked them. Jonathan threw himself into work. Panels now solo. His voice raw with unresolved ache. Whispers followed. Trouble in paradise. Elias's firm demoted him subtly. Team fit the excuse. A chance encounter at a gallows meeting across Champagne, flutes ignited fleeting hope. But Elias turned away. Summer scorched the remnants. Jonathan adopted Milo fully. Walks a ritual of solitude. Letters to Elias went unanswered. Blueprints gathering dust. His blog shifted to healing narratives. Readers' stories mirroring his. Love's demolition. Reconstruction's pain. Autumn winds howled as Elias appeared at the door. Soaked and spent. I can't without you. He choked. Collapsing into arms. But trust. Once load-bearing. Now splintered. They tried counseling. Slow rebuilds, but the click's echo lingered. A fault line. Winter's nadir. Separation papers drafted in haste. Retracted in despair. Jonathan confronted his roll-the-post hubris. Visibility's cost. Elias admitted fear's grip. Ambition's blinders. Raw talks under Christmas lights peeled back to core. Love. Unadorned. Spring tiptoed in with tentative greens. Mirroring the fragile truce Jonathan and Elias forged in therapy's sterile light. At 27. Jonathan stared at his reflection lines, etched deeper. Eyes wiser in weariness. The loft. Once a sanctuary. Now held ghosts of arguments. Blueprints yellowing like old wounds. We start small. The counselor urged. And they did, coffee dates in neutral cafes. Hands brushing without expectation. Elias's firm stabilized. A quiet apology in his promotion, reversal unspoken. He sketched again. Designs infused with humility, community spaces emphasizing connection over spectacle. Jonathan's nonprofit weathered the storm. Donors returning swayed by his unyielding grace. The garden thrived. Benches inscribed with donors' names. A living testament to perseverance. Summer's warmth coaxed vulnerability. They volunteered together at Pride Youth camps. Elias teaching drafting to kids with dreams deferred. Jonathan facilitating story circles. Laughter returned. Tentative at first. Then full-throated during bonfire nights where Milo romped free. I see our future here. Elias whispered one starlit evening. Sketching Jonathan's profile in sand. Yet scars itched. Ohio's silence broke with a sister's call. Mom's asking about you really asking. Jonathan visited alone. The farm's creak a time machine to boyhood hiding. Conversations cracked open his mother's admission. I was scared. Johnny. For you. For us. Tears watered seeds of reconciliation. Elias welcomed in photos shared via text. Autumn harvested growth. Elias proposed a joint venture, a queer-led design collective. Blending their strengths. Jonathan dove in. Proposals flowing like the East River. Their loft-revived walls repainted in hopeful blues. Milo's toys scattered like confetti. Date nights at rooftop bars. City lights winking approval. Winter wrapped them in deliberate warmth. Holiday travels to Brooklyn. Elias's family enveloping with unconditional roars. Jonathan's blog evolved to rebuilding blueprints. Chronicles of rupture and repair. Readers flooding with gratitude. Intimacy rebuilt layer by layer, not fireworks, but hearth's steady glow. Spring bloomed bolder. The collective launched. First, project a safe house in Queens for trans elders. Walls curving like protective arms. Groundbreaking drew media-positive spins this time. Their story reframed as triumph. Jonathan's voice, once echoing alone, now harmonized with Elias's. Panels buzzing with their synergy. Summer sun gilded milestones. Elias's museum won awards. Inclusivity lauded. Jonathan keynote at urban forums. His journey from scholarship sacrifice to advocacy icon inspiring throngs. They escaped to the Cape. Beaches healing old breaches. Waves whispering forgiveness. Autumn's palette deepened resolve. A call from Harvard retroactive honors for his impact work closed a circle. Jonathan declining graciously, my path's elsewhere. Elias beamed. Pride undimmed. Their love, battle-tested, flowered in quiet acts, morning coffees, evening embraces. Winter's hush amplified joys. Milo's first snow romp. Laughter snowballing. Family fused Jonathan's mother visiting. Tentative hugs evolving to shared recipes. The collective expanded. Dreams scaling like Elias's towers. Spring's vigor propelled them. Book deals knocked Jonathan's memoir in talks. Elias illustrating. Pride floats they designed themselves. Rainbows arching over cheers. Vulnerability. Once a clique's curse. Now their strength. Summer crested with commitment. On a Hudson Valley hill. Under the half-built home's frame. Elias knelt not with rings, but vows etched on parchment, build with me. Forever. Jonathan's yes echoed across valleys. Tears salting smiles. Autumn wove legacies. The memoir penned. Pages pulsing with raw heart from Ohio trailers to skyline shapers. Elias's designs graced covers. Their partnership immortalized. Winter sealed it. Vows exchanged in a Brooklyn courthouse. Snowflakes confetti. Families blended in witness. Milo's collar bore a tiny blueprint tag. Yet the clique's lesson lingered, not destruction, but catalyst. One post dismantled illusions, forcing authentic foundations. Their story, shared in keynotes, rippled, love's not fragile. It's the rebar in ruins. Spring's renewal circled back. The Hudson home completed a haven of glass and green. Windows framing tomorrows. Jonathan, 30 now, traced Elias's hand. One click destroyed the old us. Built the real one. No. Wait, this narrative arc needs recalibration. The story demands kitsch tin. Gay con a deeper plunge into destruction before ascent. The clique's devastation must rend deeper. Testing limits. Forcing profound change. Let's rewind the blueprint. After the post-virality. Escalation brews not in whispers, but tempests. The tabloid piece ignited a firestorm. Elias's firm, under corporate pressure, suspended him pending review, clients fleeing like rats from a sinking skyline. It's temporary. The email lied. But Elias's face crumpled. The architect who built dreams now dismantling his own. Jonathan, guilt's architect. Pace the loft. My fault, that damn post. Elias's retort cut. Our fault for thinking the world was ready. Backlash cascaded. Jonathan's nonprofit's funding evaporated. Board resignations citing reputational risk. Protests erupted outside picket lines decrying agenda-pushing perverts. Slurs scrawled on garden benches. Ohio disowned fully. His sister's wedding snubbed them. Mother's final letter, a scorched earth farewell. You've chosen your path. Don't look back. Isolation gripped like winter's vice. Friends distanced. Invites dried. Milo sensed the storm, cowering under tables. Nights fractured, Elias staring at blank drafts. Jonathan doom-scrolling hate. Sleep a casualty. Arguments erupted. You exposed us. Elias roared one thunderous evening. Jonathan fired back. I freed us from hiding. Words weapons. Love's beams buckling. Winter exiled them inward. Elias crashed with family. Brooklyn stoops cold without Jonathan's warmth. Solo therapy unearthed rot. Elias's fear of failure. Rooted in grandparents' wartime losses. Jonathan's savior complex. Masking abandonment wounds. Letters exchanged raw. Unfiltered laid bare the clique's true toll, not just jobs, but trust's erosion. Spring mocked with false thaws. Jonathan sublet the loft. Crashing on couches. Freelance gigs sporadic. Elias scraped by on odd jobs. Sketches sold on street corners. A joint email from the counselor. Rebuild or release. Pride passed in shadows. Rainbows blurred by tears. Summer scorched solitude. Jonathan road-tripped west. Deserts mirroring inner void stops at queer communes. Stories of survival fueling faint fires. Elias holed in Brooklyn. Mentoring kids gratis. His passion flickering. A chance call. Miss you. Elias whispered. Jonathan's reply. Me too. But how? Autumn's harvest was barren. Eviction loomed for Jonathan. Elias's family straining. Desperation peaked a heated reunion in a dive bar. Fists clenched then unclenching in desperate hold. We burned it all. Jonathan sobbed. Elias nodded, then rise from ash. Winter's rock bottom, holidays alone. Milo boarded. Jonathan contemplated return to law. Shame's siren. Elias eyed corporate conformity. Soul's surrender. But dawn broke a mutual email. One last try. Spring's tentative green, they met neutral. Coffee steaming like breath on frosted glass. Conversations clinical at first. Then cracking admissions of codependence. The click a symptom not cause. Therapy reignited. Tools for deconstruction, boundaries. Self-worth untethered. Summer's heat forged fragile bridges. Shared apartment, hunt modest queens walk up. Fresh start. Jobs pieced. Jonathan tutoring law online. Elias adjunct teaching design. Evenings rebuilding rituals, walks. No phones. Presence paramount. Autumn deepened roots. The collective reborn smell a pop-up exhibit on queer resilience. Drawings and essays intertwining. Crowd small but soulful. Feedback a bomb. Ohio thawed via sister. We're trying. John. Winter warmed incrementally. Holiday potluck with new allies. Laughter tentative. Milo's return yipped joy. Intimacy rekindled slow. Sacred. Trust's timbers resetting. Spring's bloom accelerated. Funding trickled for the exhibit. Expanding to workshops. Jonathan's blog revived. Ashes to arches. Vulnerability viral anew but armored. Elias's adjunct role steadied. Students igniting his fire. Summer's sun solidified. A grant for the safe house. Groundbreaking cathartic shovels in soil. Past buried. Pride marched together. Hands linked defiantly. Autumn's palette painted progress. Memoir queries. This time grounded. Hudson visits. Home's frame rising. Winter's hush held hope. Vows not rushed, but envisioned. The click. Once destroyer. Now teacher. Destruction precedes design. No deeper drama demands escalation. The destruction's gay can must peak in betrayal's shadow. Internal tempests raging before external rebuild. Refine, post-virality. Not suspension, but termination for Elias. Firm citing moral clause. Jonathan's nonprofit dissolves. He jobless, spiraling into depression's blueprint.